Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we are super happy to have you here, and we just ask that you bring an open mind and heart to your listening experience and to be prepared to explore vantage points that I'm convinced will help shift or solidify your current understanding of the ultimate nature of reality. While listening, you'll be exposed to inspiring, empowering, and unifying perspectives that I'm highly confident will yield stellar results in your life if you opt to try them on for size. Also, at optimistic.tv, we have officially begun releasing the first few episodes of our new late-night style, consciousness-elevating video variety talk show, Optimistic, which features live visionary art, soul share interviews, retreat guests here at the Mystic Manor, as well as live musical performances. I'm also super excited to announce that we are currently making plans to release the rest of Season 1 on my personal favorite online streaming service. So stay tuned to optimistic.tv to follow the unfolding development of this exciting Optimistic expansion, as we'll be posting more info and release dates there soon. And in the meantime, be sure to check out, of course, the first few episodes at optimistic.tv as well. All right, all you positive heads, welcome, welcome. Here we grow again. It is a terrific Thursday here in the studio. It's nice to be with you on a Thursday. Normally, Miss Erica Middle Miss is holding down the fort on Thursdays, and we did a little swap this week. She took Monday, and so, yeah, here we are. Super glad to mix it up and share a little bit of insight and wisdom, and in today's case, a little story time. It's been a few weeks since I did story time I've been reading here and there from the Big Book of Angel Stories by Jenny Smedley. And I just felt like, I just have those days where all the thought, all the mental chatter, all the integration of lessons and so forth just gets to be a lot. And there's been a lot of growth, a lot of challenges and, victories and lessons and all of that for so many of us. Disappointments, you name it. It's happened in 2020, I think, for most of us. And the last few days have been pretty intense. And so, whenever it's like that for me, it's nice to just sort of, okay, let me just hear a great story. I don't want to process too much more. I've got plenty to integrate his way of lessons. Let's just have a little story time. So that's when I reach for a book. And I'm feeling like that today and hoping you are too. I'm going to just share a few stories here from the Big Book of Angel Stories by Jenny Smedley. And, what I love about these stories, it really gives us a glimpse into the potential really to connect with the other side, and this idea that there is a veil between us and the next dimension, if you will. And there's so many of these stories that, some of them are more miraculous than others. And, but the ones that are really, really miraculous are really inspiring and show you like, hey, there's more going on than what maybe you're used to seeing on a day-to-day. And anytime you can bring a bit of magic into the world and we focus our attention on magic on maggots. Don't focus on maggots unless anytime. I guess if you focus on maggots, you probably see more maggots. If you focus on magic, you're going to see more magic. It's up to you. For me, I want to focus on some more magic and getting in that state of awe and wonder. That childlike state is what calls in more of it. So the more I can set the vibrational tone for myself and for others, the better. And so, that's the purpose of these readings, and they're very short stories. So I'm going to start today with Jacqueline's story. And this is from the chapter called Angels Bringing Past Life Knowledge. And what I love about past life stories like, books like Many Lives, Many Masters, Destiny of Souls, which we read from in the past some. It really shows that lessons span lifetimes. And so many people that doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with, they have a recollection through, past life regression about a past life. And next thing you know, they're healed of whatever the malady or issue was in this life. And I think results speak loudly as far as to the validity of these sorts of things. So as for me, I'm a believer. And let's just explore what Jacqueline's story was, shall we? I arrive in what looks like a temple with polished marble floors. I am a young boy of 8. I am struggling with my studies as I learn to be a priest. My mother was a priestess. She was tall, beautiful, very distant, and wore long gowns made of golden silk. There was a protocol that I had to adhere to with her. I was her son, but only by birth. I was a child of the state. I belonged to the priesthood and was heir to leadership that the priesthood carried in that world. I did not like being in this position. I privately wanted to experience God. I felt a tragic personal failure that I had not found him as yet. My therapist has me go back earlier in that life to another significant event. Now I am 3. I feel myself trying to show love to my mother, but she punishes me when I exhibit any such feelings. The world we are in teaches us all to utilize and develop only our minds and to deny our feelings. As I feel this punishment as rejection by my mother, I begin to shut down emotionally and seek to conform to the development of mental powers, in that I might be accepted. Then my therapist has me regress back further to experience myself within my mother's womb. Here, too, I feel the void of connection with my mother. She is shut down emotionally and cannot relate to me. There is no love, no welcoming. I feel very lonely and frightened. This leaves a major imprint upon my life. Then I am led to other significant events in that life. As a young adult, I continue my studies, but any memories of feelings or yearnings for God have long since been buried. I've learned to move stone with my thoughts, to control the minds of others, and to rule with what seems a total control over my environment and the physical world. There are also many deep initiations and rituals that are passed on to me in order to provide for the people and the country. I become a priest. Later in life, as a high priest, I have great responsibility but have grown arrogant about my powers. I am fully ingrained in my position and in charge of all. While we have felt the earthquake and rumble over some years, I am stubbornly believed I could control any physical disruption. One afternoon, without warning, the earth begins to move violently. Walls begin to fall and the marble temples begin to crumble. Fires come up from below, people are falling from buildings into what looks like hell, and they are all dying. I am beside myself. After so many years under the illusion that I have total control of the environment and the world, I do not seem to have control now. I dig deep within my powers, but to no avail. I bellow with every ounce of my power. I stand on top of a hill overlooking my city, watching its total destruction. Then I too die in the destruction of the trembling and fire. But I do not leave the earth plane for some time. I cannot comprehend that my world has been devoured by the very elements I once had the power to control. Soon I realize I am no longer in my physical body and I become full of despair. I wander about the destruction for what seems like a long time. Dead tree trunks, smoldering earth, a total devastation of everything I have known. I feel I have completely failed, as a priest, as a leader, as a man, and as a soul. An angel finally appears and takes me. Yet I feel I am unreachable. I am in total collapse. I later find myself in the place where one discusses and reviews one's life. I cannot speak to the celestial being that has been sent to help me. I am stubbornly inconsolable. I am finally taken away to where one has time to heal. Then continuing in this interlife, and with my therapist's suggestions, I slowly find myself opening up to the presence of the light of God. The experience begins to soften my stubbornness and melts my self-pity. I see my own arrogance and how I had shut down emotionally in that life, and how the false sense of power over my world had been created in me to replace the loss of love. I stay in this presence as my heart continues to heal, and then upon my therapist's suggestions, we carry back the presence and the feeling of the light into the major experiences just visited in that lifetime, to watch and feel its impact. First, in the womb, the presence of the light makes me feel loved from the inside out. While my mother is still distant, I no longer take it personally. Growing up, I feel and see how the presence of the light has an impact on every aspect of my life. I can feel the presence of God, and my development in the priesthood is more whole. I grow as a loving person, not one dominating everything with a misplaced sense of power. I feel humility in the presence of the earth and with others. When the earthquake happens, I no longer feel the responsibility or the failure as before. Instead, I know warmth and inner glowing and a sense of the impermanence of things of this world and how this reflects what is happening inside us. I return to this life with a wonderful feeling of gratefulness in my heart. In my work, relationships begin to shift and take on a warmer quality. I find myself less arrogant and controlling and demanding of others. The business begins to take on a more vibrant quality. This session and further instances of regression therapy have shown me a whole different way of being connected inside and a growing awareness of God. Cool. I like this story. What's interesting about it is it seems to show different timelines for, what you have here, just to be clear, is someone who's in past life regression, seeing a life as this priest, going through that life, then experiencing what they experienced sort of on the other side, then having an alternate experience or view of that life as a priest with, more of the light of God essentially injected into the whole lifetime and therefore changing who the priest becomes. Then seeing and capturing this whole story, feeling the essence of it, bringing it back to this life, which then makes him less arrogant and controlling and demanding of others. His business takes off more, et cetera, et cetera. So really cool, unique little story there about letting the light of source into your life. And the cool thing about that is we can all do that now. Are you feeling arrogant or cut off or not loved, maybe because of something that happened to you from a parent during childhood? You always have the option now to open up to that very same light. It is ever present and they're waiting for us always to invite it in, right? Have you done anything to invite it in? Have you taken 10 minutes to, meditate, say a prayer, do a guided meditation, some sort of ritual that you either find, on YouTube or that you make up yourself? Doesn't really matter. It's the intention. Highly recommend that. Before we continue on with today's episode, I'd like to take a quick moment to tell you about our new sponsor, Noom. I agreed to do this promo spot because I am super impressed with the futuristic and simple process that Noom has implemented to revolutionize diet and wellness. Noom is the unique, habit-changing solution that helps users learn to develop a new relationship with food. And it's not a diet. No food is good or bad. As we talk about on the show all the time, it's all about proper balance and having good habits. And Noom just teaches you how to look inside your own mind and make better decisions for yourself. Sounds familiar, right? It's based in psychology, so I'm personally really excited about starting to use it to understand my own thought patterns better. And they make it super easy to do with a minimal commitment of only 10 minutes a day, which is essential for someone like me with so much on my plate. No pun intended. So if you'd like to take the journey with me and sign up for a trial, head over to noom.com/positivehead to start your trial today. That's spelled NOOM.com/positivehead. I mean, what do you have to lose except outdated habits and perhaps a few extra pounds by signing up for the trial? Once again, NOOM.com/positivehead. All right, let's read another one here. John's story. I've never believed in angels or psychics or past lives or any of that flaky stuff. I'm a journalist and have always stayed objective and shied away from anything vaguely supernatural. But I have to admit, I was driven to seek help from this unlikely quarter due to a problem I couldn't get rid of. I wanted to be an actor. Rather than writing the words, I wanted to be acting them out. I was passionate and determined, and yet every time I went for an audition, I flopped. My knees would quake and I'd not be able to utter a word. I'd go bright red and end up running off the stage in a panic and very scared. I didn't tell anyone how I felt because I was so embarrassed. But of course, word got around and I felt everyone was laughing at me. I gave up for a while, but it wouldn't let me be. I'd have dreams of being an actor. The weirdest thing was that I never ever got nervous before the audition. It was just when I walked on stage and saw the few seats that were filled with producers and directors. They were all looking at me. And that was it. I was finished. I'm not a shy person. I'll talk to anyone, interview anyone. So I didn't understand it at all. I went for all kinds of classes in self-confidence, etc., but I knew that wasn't the problem, and I was right. They didn't make the slightest difference. Just money and time down the drain. It was suggested that I go for hypnosis to cure the problem. I did, and it worked a little, enough for me to want to try again. It was on my second visit that something really odd happened. The hypnotherapist took me back through my life, searching for the cause of my problem. Back and back, until suddenly, just like that, I found myself somewhere else. Or should I say, somewhen else. I was a scruffy young man, aged about 17, I think. I was wearing a rough leather jerkin and some sort of Hessian trousers. I had no shoes on. I was being roughly manhandled along a cobbled road. The hypnotherapist asked me what year it was, and I said without hesitation, 1794. My brain was turning cartwheels by now, but I stuck with it. The men dragging me were wearing some sort of military uniform, and by their rough words and hands, I figured I'd done something to upset the army. Next thing I knew, I was forced to the ground in front of a wooden device, and my head and wrist were soon clamped and locked into holes. A crowd of onlookers stood around, shouting gleefully, and I felt incredible humiliation as they jeered at me. Then it really started. They began throwing stuff at me, nasty, smelly, rotten vegetables, and any old rubbish they could lay their hands on. One man rushed out of a nearby house and threw the contents of a chamber pot in my face. It was filled with urine and feces. I was hit and slapped, and all the time I felt trapped and helpless. They called me names, and what they said made me writhe with shame as well as pain. Finally, I'd had enough, and I asked the hypnotherapist to bring me out, which he did. Now I understood why standing on a stage with people watching me and shouting directions at me made me feel so afraid and so humiliated. It all made sense, but was it real? I can't say for sure, but from that day forth, I have been cast in 3 plays, only small parts, but I never thought in my wildest dreams that I'd ever get that far. Do I believe in flaky past lives? I'm not sure, and if you ask me in person, I'd probably say no. But if I'm honest here, where I'm not going to give you my real name, I'd have to say probably. Interesting. I like that one. I like that it's a little bit of a skeptic giving and sharing his experience. And I think that's an important part of these things. It's like, even if do I really believe? Did I make this up? Well, did it help you is the question. Did it benefit you? Because even if it was created in his mind, it's subconsciously a reflection in some way of what he's dealing with. And if it helps to deal with the issue, perfect, great, wonderful, right? All right, one more here. Nadine's story. I could barely walk, let alone think or imagine going out. My body's immune system had collapsed. I was living in hell. A meal would knock me out for hours. Walking down a street caused my glands to enlarge in pain and my breathing to become asthmatic. Crowds terrified me. Travel the same. In dark moments, and there were many, filled with confusion, pushed down and groveling on my hands and knees, I would sob over and over again, "Mother, father, sister, brother, where are you? Who is this imaginary family? What is happening to me? Why am I so terrified of trains, of crowds, of people?" A 3-month hospitalization only confirmed my disabilities. My regression. I'm a child running on a train platform. Crowds of people are being herded into boxcars. Chaos and panic permeate the air, which pierce with sirens. The skyline, cold gray, is sheared with black smoke. I'm a 5-year-old boy who has lost his mummy. I run backwards and forwards, jostled among the mass of bewildered people. I spot my mother's black hat with the peacock feathers. As I run toward her along the frostbitten platform, uniformed soldiers emerge out of the crowd. Menacingly, they shout orders. I must get to my mother and her warm, protective body. Suddenly, I reel as a searing cold steel glances across my temple. I feel sick and strange. A man scoops me up as he runs along the platform. All goes black. I'm on a train swaying, jostling in dizziness, coldness, blackness. Then, no clothes. Where are my clothes? Where is my mummy? The stone floor is so cold. I'm shoved along, crowded together with others through a concrete underpass into a room, a shower room. The door seals shut. The water taps with the warm water we've been promised don't work. That yellow mist coming down must be steam, but everything is still cold. I cough, I choke. During that past life session in October 1991, every single symptom I'd become familiar with all through my life was triggered. The feeling of dying had been such a part of me. I had known no other way of being. From that day onwards, my symptoms dropped away. What is interesting that I had taken the lid off a scenario I'd feared but had never allowed myself to see. For almost a year, I was in amazing recovery mode, eating what I wanted, going on tube trains, unconcerned by busy crowds, no longer obsessed with loneliness, not even bothered by winter. The memory had been brought to light and released. The miracle I had hoped for had come. Cool. I like that one. It's another great example of, benefit from the recollection. I wonder who you've been. I wonder who I've been. I wonder how and where our paths have crossed before. Eternity's an awfully long time. Awfully long no time. I imagine we're all old friends here. And as Ram Dass said, we're all just walking each other home. And it is a pleasure to walk with you, my friends. Till next time, journey well. Love you so much. And if you're feeling the call to come for a week retreat-style Mystic Manor immersion, remember to go now and book your time to speak with me directly about stepping into the optimistic vortex at calendly.com/talkwithbrandon while there are still spots left. Otherwise, I look forward to co-creating magic with you at the Mystic Manor.